We turn now to FEMA Administrator Deanne Criswell. Welcome back to Face the Nation.
Good morning, Margaret.
These Santa Ana winds are forecast to continue into the next week, and that could fuel some of the blazes. What is your biggest area of concern right now?
You know, with these winds coming back and them issuing the red flag warnings, these winds change the dynamics of this fire. And so I'm concerned for the safety of our firefighters, concerned for their ability to continue to contain this fire. And I want people to make sure that they are listening closely to what local officials are saying so they can stay safe and they can stay out of harm's way.
So I know the winds themselves are rare for this particular time of year, but Los Angeles and the area, they got a lot of experience with wildfires. They have a lot of regulation and a large firefighting force. Do you have a sense at this point why the area was so unprepared?
I think that they were very prepared. This is something that they are very used to. They fight fires all the time, but they have never seen 100-mile-an-hour winds that are fueling the fire. And those winds and that weather condition is what really impacts, where this fire is going to go, but more importantly, how they're able to try to contain it in those first few hours and days. And because it was in such a populated area, it just makes it that much more challenging to be able to get in there and secure the perimeter, but as well try to save as many homes as possible.
In terms of the federal response and the support you're given to local authorities, President Biden spoke a few times from the Oval Office this week, and he did mention the need to move power lines underground. Do you know, were the power lines a cause of any of these blazes?
Yeah, I don't have any information on the cause, and I think that's certainly going to be something that's going to be, under investigation. But I think when we think about moving the power lines underground, it's not just from the cause, but it's also how do you keep the power on when we have these severe weather incidents? When you underground them, you create a more resilient community, and it can withstand the impacts of all of these different types of storms, whether it's fires or hurricanes, and we want to be able to keep these communities energized.
Will that be a requirement for any federal support for the rebuild?
It's not going to be a requirement for us unless it's part of their local code, right? And we want to be able to enforce the local codes that they have. And so we'll work closely with California as also using this as an opportunity. Even if it's not a requirement, is this something that they want to be able to do? We have additional ways that we can fund that through our programs as they begin the rebuilding.
The governor has indicated he's looking at a number of executive orders. If local environmental regulations are loosened here in order to help quickly rebuild, does that concern you at all? And will it make it more complicated for people to obtain insurance, which we already know is quite expensive and hard for many Californians to get?
The insurance piece is a real concern. We've, heard the stories of so many people that have lost their insurance prior to this event. And that's the #1 resource that families have to help with their rebuilding process. And so what I think we want to be able to do is we want to be able to work with the governor's team to rebuild in a way that makes communities more resilient, that keeps insurance companies there, right? That we rebuild in a way that makes them stronger and reducing the impact so they want to stay in these communities and they don't have to lose the insurance carriers. We have to be able to work together with the insurance industry to help find ways to keep this really valuable resource in place for so many families.
But many of these policies were already canceled months ago, as we've been reporting. So should the government, though, be in the business of stepping in and helping people rebuild if the private market has deemed these areas just too risky?
Our programs really help jumpstart the recovery process, but without insurance, families are going to have to find other means to be able to rebuild. But again, it's not necessarily just where you rebuild, it's going to be how. And we want to be able to do things that can encourage families to rebuild their homes in a way that make them more fire resistant. We have a lot of science and technology out there that shows ways that we can make these homes stronger and more resistant against these fires. That's really where we need to focus our efforts as we move into the rebuilding phase.
President Biden said that 100% of the firefighting cost will be picked up for 6 months on the federal tab. But there is the separate issue of individual assistance to victims who lost their homes. We checked, and Congress set the maximum FEMA grant level at just short of $44,000. It's very expensive living in California. Does that need to be raised? Should Congress do that?
So again, our programs aren't designed to replace insurance. Our programs are designed to jumpstart the recovery process. And we know that in many areas, not just California, that that is not going to be enough to rebuild a home, which is why insurance is so important. We'll work with other partners, and one of our greatest partners is the Small Business Administration that can do low interest loans to these families to give them another resource to help rebuild. We'll also work with our nonprofit partners, philanthropic partners, bringing the whole society together so we can work with each family to help them figure out the right tools that they're going to need and the decisions that they're going to have to make as they go down this recovery journey.
You're describing a really costly enterprise here. I've seen estimates on damages that range from $60 to $130 billion. Do you have any ballpark figure at this point? Because it would seem, according to President Biden, that Congress is going to have to do more.
Yeah, I don't have any good estimates right now, and I think it's important to remember that these fires are still burning, which means damage is still happening. But the costs for this disaster, both from just the physical infrastructure, but also the economic losses, they're going to be significant. There's going to be other programs that Congress can work through, like HUD's Community Development Block Grant for Disaster Program that can also help cover some of the things that FEMA's programs don't cover, or other parts of the insurance industry. There's a wide variety of different tools and resources that can be used that need to be authorized by Congress to really help this community on this road to recovery.
Well, we appreciate you joining us today to get the message out, Administrator Criswell. Good luck to you.
Yeah, thank you.